So we are in session 4th, December 13th, and we want to start with the book again, The Silence, The Power of Quiet in the World Full of Noise. And before we start, like always, we start testing the waters with what we do. So we will start with our very first exercise, which is I'm here, I'm free, and I hear you. So for that 1 minute, for the first 10 seconds, 20 seconds, you might hear me speak something. Don't get disturbed by that. It's just to us to get started into it. And then let's try and stay there for a minute. All right. So the best way, just find a comfortable position for yourself. Start with the biggest exhale that you can, and then get into that 1 minute. Then it sometimes helps. All right. So let's get started. So with the first few breaths, I tell myself that I am here, physically and mentally, not in my past, not in my future, but here. Then with the next few breaths, I tell myself that I am free. In the here and the now, I'm completely free. And then I hear you. Then we slowly open our eyes and come back to the session. Right? Stretch your neck if you want, see the things around if you want, see if there is some newness that you find with this 1 minute itself. Don't fool ourselves, there is newness. If there is newness, there is newness. Otherwise, it's not. Otherwise, it's not. So then we continue today our reading. We will start on the next subject, which is a steady diet of noise. That is what we want to read today.
Okay.
Yeah.
Chapter 1.
Chapter 1, steady diet of noise.
Okay.
So unless you live alone in the mountains without electricity, chances are you are absorbing a constant stream of noise and information all day long without interruption. Yeah, so you are absorbing a constant stream of noise and information all day long without interruption. Even if no one is speaking to you and you are not listening to radio or some other sound system, there are billboards, telephone calls, text messages, social media, computer skills, bills, flyers, and many other ways that the words and the sounds reach us. It sometimes can be impossible to find a corner of an airport boarding area without television blaring. Many people's morning commute is spent absorbing tweets, text, news, games, and updates on their phones. Even in those rare moments when there is no sound, text, or other information coming in from outside, our heads are filled with constant loop of thoughts. How many minutes each day, if any, do you spend in true quiet? And that's the question. Yeah? How many minutes each day, if any, do you spend in true quiet? if I ask you this question, true quiet, right? What he says is that, and the last line is so important, that even in those rare moments when there is no sound, text, or other information coming in from outside, our heads are filled with constant
Uh-huh.
loop of thoughts. That how many minutes each day, if any, do you spend in true quiet? How many minutes do we spend, Alessandra?
Ooh, not many. I've been having a lot of trouble. I mean, even if I shut out the outer noise, the inner noise, the brain, the mind, it does, I'm having a lot of trouble shutting up my own mind.
Yes, yes,
Even when I've been trying to do the exercises this week, my mind just keeps on blah, blah, blah.
yeah, yeah. Ekta, you want to add anything? How many minutes do we have spending in complete quietness without thoughts and
Mm.
without external stuff?
Yeah. Even though if I mean, I get a lot of, I get actually, I get good time when I am all alone. But yeah, I mean, the mind it's running. I mean, though maybe it is about okay, how to maximum utilize my time, what all things I can do, but yeah, it is always running.
It's still
Some,
thoughts. It's still thoughts,
yes.
right?
Mhm.
So I think what he says next is very important. He changes the font while he's writing it. He says, silence is essential. We need silence just as much as we need air. Yeah? And he's not talking about external silence. He's talking about silence. Silence is essential. We need silence just as much as we need air, just as much as plants need light. If our minds are crowded with words and thoughts, there is no space for us. There is no space for us. This is where I think he connects the silence with space, right? He says, for to have space in us, you need silence, right? People who live in an urban setting get used to a certain level of ambient noise. There is always someone shouting, traffic honking, or music blaring. The constancy of perpetual noise can actually become reassuring. I know friends who go to countryside for a weekend or who go to a meditation retreat and find the silence scary and unsettling. The silence doesn't feel safe or comfortable because they are used to the background of constant noise. Plants can't grow without light. People can't breathe without air. Everything that lives needs space to grow and become. Yeah? Everything that lives needs space to grow and become. Right? I think we'll stop here. I mean, I had friends who had this. So I lived by the seashore my entire childhood, and a friend comes to stay at my place and he's saying, "How do you sleep? There is so much sound of waves." And I said, "What sound? This is silence." Yeah, I had a friend who was used to sleeping with the sound of the fan in the childhood hostel rooms and all the time. Then suddenly she goes to a room where there is no fan and there is only air condition. She just couldn't sleep. And silence can be unsettling, but without that, maybe we don't get the space. And what happens when we don't get the space? We can't grow. So silence is the way to get the space. Silence is the space. What are you thinking when you hear this?
I think what he said about the silence being unsettling for some people is true. I haven't found it that way, but what keeps running in my mind is, how can I shut my mind off? How can I find that true silence?
Yes, yes. Because
How can
without
I?
that, we have not even, without that, maybe we have not even experienced silence so far anyway. So we don't know how it feels.
Mhm. I'm not scared of it, but I do wonder, what is it
What is it,
like?
right? And the path to it is what we have discussed. I mean, we can't talk about silence. That's so futile. That's so silly, right? You can't talk about silence. That's just contradicting. You can't think about silence. That's contradictory to. And I think what in this book he tries to do, and he always talks about breath as one of the anchors to focus on, to try and go towards the silence. And that's why all of his prayers, activities are always around mindfulness, breathing, mindfulness, walking, and stuff like that. Right? Ekta, you want to add anything to this?
Okay. So when you were reading, so I was all, I mean, what I was recalling was, yeah. mm, so, yes, when there is this external silence, which we are not used to. So sometimes that feeling of loneliness also comes up. Probably that becomes, I mean, that is more scary part
Yes.
for most of them. Until
Yes.
unless you get used to it, and it takes time. And yeah, it can be this. I mean, with this silence, with this external silence, this loneliness feeling can be actually traumatizing also.
Yes. Yes. I'll just try to recollect one of the, because when you said that, right? I mean, got recollected of the sentence that we read last time, right? It talks about, he was talking about the having some space, right? Having just some space, and that's enough for
Ah,
you to feel about it, right?
mm-hmm.
Um, yeah. He says that many of us feel we can
When
never
you have,
answer these questions,
mhm.
but
With
with
mindfulness,
mindfulness, yeah. Go on,
uh-huh.
Alessandra, read it.
Okay, but with mindfulness, you can hear the response yourself when you have some silence within.
Right. When you have some, what he's talking about is that when you really have silence, it's not about loneliness. You start hearing the true calling of your heart. So maybe the loneliness is because everything went silent, and now you cannot run anywhere from your thoughts,
Yes,
and your
and probably,
thoughts feeds the loneliness.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and probably our mind does not want us to hear those thoughts. I mean, I don't know.
Yes,
So what
yes,
I believe in is this mind will always play games, and he will
yes,
not let us do those
yes,
things.
yes, and which is fine, which is fine. And the question then would be that who is watching that mind?
Mm.
Yeah, but let's not dwell there. I mean, it's a very tempting topic to discuss, but then word is not it, right? So we keep it very simple. So then my suggestion would be that I think for today the reading we would end here, and we would do one very quick mindfulness breathing. It's from the further from the book. We'll do one mindfulness breathing activity and try and
Okay.
stay in silence. Let's see this 5 minutes. In this 5 minutes, if we can reach that silence, right? Or at least touch some essence of it, right?
Okay.
Again, we don't fool ourselves. Our brain is very tricky. It has traps. It'll fool us.
Mm-hmm.
If we want to be fooled, it'll fool us. Yeah, we don't want to be fooled. We want to test the
Yes.
waters. Yeah,
I
we want to
totally
test
agree
the
with
waters.
both of you.
Yeah. Okay, then let's start. Let's exhale, and I will take you through that mindfulness activity. Listen to me, and then we go into. I'll tell you that we go into silence, and let's sit into silence for some time. Then breathing in, I know I'm breathing in. Breathing out, I know I'm breathing out. In, out. Breathing in, my breath grows deep. Breathing out, my breath goes slow. Deep, slow. Breathing in, I'm aware of my body. Breathing out, I calm my body. Aware of my body, calming. Breathing in, I smile. Breathing out, I release. Smile, release. Breathing in, I dwell in the present moment. Breathing out, I enjoy the present moment. Present moment, enjoy. We try to go into the silence and enjoy this present moment. Now slowly we try to open our eyes and return back to the session. How was it? What was it?
Too noisy.
Inside or outside?
Inside.
Yeah.
Still struggling to keep that mind quiet. But maybe just a little bit less than last week.
Yeah. For me, it definitely slowed me down. This breathing exercise or breathing time. But yeah, definitely thoughts kept coming in, and so okay. So I didn't stop them. Like I think in last session, Jamin, you had mentioned about that you should not stop the thoughts, something, though I wanted to ask a question on that uh, to you. But yeah, yes. And they kept changing. But yeah, there was in between, there was time when I used to just follow my breath. Then some thought came, and then again follow the breath. So yeah, it just kept repeating. But yeah, when I'm talking now, it feels everything has slowed down.
It does, right? Just 5 minutes. And in that 5 minutes, the first 2.5 minutes, maybe this Jamin fellow was blabbering something, right? Anyways, right? One question I had, and I come back to the question from you, Ekta also. One question I had for both of you. Who is watching those thoughts? When you say there is too much noise when you are going inside, who is watching those thoughts?
Mm.
Who wants to stop them? That's it. Don't answer it. That's it. So the mind and the thoughts will never stop. It's futile to fight it or control it, but observe it. And then who's the observer? I mentioned this in the first session that there is one, and again, I'm very mindlessly talking about the person without knowing his name. But he speaks something wonderful about mindful observation of thoughts. He says thoughts are self liberating. It will never stay with you unless you feed it thoughts. If you observe it, they are like bubbles, they will go away. They won't stay, they won't trouble you. They'll just go away. That's their job. Let them come and go. They're self liberating. Unless you try to either control and keep them or overthink about them, they will go away. It's their nature to self liberate. We don't want to control thoughts. That's just a thought. But when you closed your eyes for 2 minutes and looked at the thoughts, what was looking? And maybe that's it. I'll stop the recording, or maybe Ekta, if you want to ask the question before that.
Okay, yeah. So, okay, it was somewhere on those lines only, Jemin, which you answered. So, in the last session, when I had heard that when you were saying that we should not control the thoughts, so that time I was not able to understand what it means. Because what I used to do was I used to bring myself back. Okay, no, you don't have to think that. Just concentrate on your breath. Concentrate on your breath. But this time I tried not to force myself. And yes, what you mentioned, that did happen. Automatically that thought went away, and then I was back to my breath part. So but I don't know how it happened. I definitely did not uh, force myself to do it, but I don't know if unconsciously I did it or not. But I tried not tried, but I just didn't control the thoughts. Yes. Mm, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So there was another question with respect to practicing this. I don't know if I should ask it later
No, no,
or
please go ahead.
now.
Please go ahead. It's friends
Okay.
of friends. Anything is okay.
Okay. Yeah. So I thought of practicing it, this 5 minutes part only. Okay. But though I could not understand when to do it. Once I did it before, I mean, when I wanted to do one of my some my office work, but my mind was going in all directions. I had so many things to do, but I was not able to concentrate. So that time I thought, okay, let me give myself this 5 minute break. But the slowness that happened today, that didn't work that time when I had put one 5 minute timer, and then I was trying to do this breathe in, breathe out. But yeah, the slowness did not came. And I wanted to ask you, okay, how do you practice? I mean, are there? I mean, where when do you practice? So when should I do something like that?
The
Hmm.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. We are in it together. But what helps me is that two things helps me. One is having a routine, and I think I spoke with Alessandra last time also on this. There has to be one routine. I mean, 5 minutes in a day, either when you start your day or you end your day or anywhere in between. But there has to be a routine. There has to be a regularity to that routine of that 5 minutes. That is point number one.
Mm-hmm.
And the point number two is there is always this joke between me and my daughter, which I'll tell you. You should do when you don't feel like doing it.
Okay.
And when you feel like doing it, also you should do. The point really is that, that comes from this, that if you should meditate half an hour every day, one guy said. But he
Yeah.
said, not when you are too busy. When you are too busy, you should meditate for 1 hour. Right? Um, what I would suggest is that observe while you practice it, that when you are in too much of thoughts and when you are busy and you want that space and silence, you are doing it with a purpose for space and silence, and then you're thinking about it, and that's why it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
If you do it with a purpose to achieve the silence cannot be achieved with purpose, thought, intent, or any doing. Anyways, the way to it is all I can say. Rest, I'm as lost as you guys are. So we are in it together. We need to see it together to touch it. But I know that the way to it is it. Any other way is just it, right? It doesn't take us there. It's all conflicting, contradicting. So anything that I use as words is all going to be conflicting to it. So be silent to go to silence. That's all I can say. Don't go there with an intent. That's noise.
Hmm. Yeah.
Intent is a noise. Okay. So I think I'll stop the recording at least for now.